So hi, everyone. I am Nita Raghawansi, President of Music Managers Forum US, MMF-US. We are a 29-year-old trade association for artist managers and self-managed artists. And we try to service the needs of our managers and our artists and provide resources and connection points, information, work on advocacy efforts on behalf of managers and self-managed artists, and sometimes a community that supports them. So I welcome you all, and we're very excited to have this amazing webinar here today. MMF-US is part of a larger global network, which is called the International Music Managers Forum, IMMF. And IMMF has members across Latin America, Asia Pacific, Africa, Europe. And we have this wonderful ability to connect to artist managers across various business opportunities globally via our respective organizations. I think there's about 60 plus countries represented in the IMMF umbrella. And with that, we have here today Jake Beaumont-Nesbitt, who is our Director of Innovation and Education at the International Music Managers Forum. And he is here to present to us an amazing group of people to have a spotlight on Germany. Germany, incredibly valuable, important music market, wealthiest European economy, super duper important for all of you to know out there the opportunities of what's going on in the German market, what's happening in our music industry there, and really just get the lowdown on how fabulous it is. And so without further ado, first of all, make sure to put any of your questions in the Q&A or in the chat. And please make sure to think about actually joining Music Managers Forum US by going to MMFUS.com and clicking on the join button. And please do sign up for our newsletter as well, so you know about all of our events and you get those wonderful emails, and follow us on socials, etc. Okay, so without further ado, I'd love to turn this over to Mr. Jake Beaumont-Nesbitt. Jake, take it away.
Thanks so much, Nita. Great to see you all. There's a massive, I'm based in London. I'm talking to you guys from London, England, and a couple of massive perceptions. I think I'm principally addressing our Canadian friends here, that the Americans don't do sarcasm and the Germans don't do humor. And if any of you have met Nita, you know that the Americans can be very sarcastic. And we have Evelyn here, who is living proof of great humor. So hopefully what we'll do a bit today is dispel some of the myths about the German market, but what you'll really get to see is how valuable it is. So I grew up in and around Camden Town in London, where a lot of the music scene in the UK is based out of. And we grow up kind of looking towards New York. How do we get into the US market? It's expensive. It's a very difficult market. There's this giant market over the road called Germany, which is more valuable than the UK market. And we'll go into stuff. Fabienne's going to give us an overview of the market to start this off. It's got great connections to the neighboring countries. So it takes a while for a Brit to figure out how useful and important Germany is, and that it really should be the first market you go to. I used to manage a Dutch band who were based in Amsterdam. They had #2 hit album in the Netherlands. And the reason they hired me was they wanted to break into the UK market. And the first thing I did was take them to Germany. I was like, are you guys crazy? It's such a great market. So I'm really pleased to be helping to present this today. And we're going to go straight into Fabienne. Fabienne, if you can just briefly introduce yourself a bit and then go ahead with hitting us up with some data. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Jake. Thanks for having me. I don't know, you talk about Germans and sense of humor. Do you know how many Germans it take to change a light bulb?
I don't know.
It's one. We are pretty efficient and we don't have any sense of humor. So hopefully we have a sense of humor, and Evelyn is living proof. I can prove that. And yeah, I'm working at Hamburg Music. So I'm based in Hamburg, Germany, which is in the northern part of Germany. I'm assistant to the management, and I've been working here for 3.5 years. And I will give you a short introduction on the German music market, just in general, some facts and figures. And I will share my screen right now. So just brief overview of my content. So I will just briefly talk about my work here, our work at Hamburg Music. I will talk about the music cities and main regions here in Germany, and then focus on the German music business and especially live recorded and publishing. Expect like 6 to 7 minutes of a presentation, maybe 8. So Hamburg Music is the first and largest regional business association in Europe. We represent over 120 companies of all subsectors of the music industry in Hamburg, which is a federal state in Germany, with the overarching goal to shape Hamburg as a major international spot for music. When talking about Germany, you have to keep in mind that Germany is a federal and rather decentralized country. So like the US, we are a federal country, and we are not like France with Paris or UK with London, which are pretty centralized. So you have a handful of other important regions here in Germany, besides Berlin. Berlin is the capital of Germany with a population of around 3.6 million inhabitants. And other important cities would be Hamburg. This is where I am based, up in the north. You have Munich in the south, and Cologne and the Rhine-Ruhr metropolitan area in the west, where Max is currently hailing from. As we are currently on the national level, I'd like to briefly discuss the royalties collecting system in Germany. I know this can be specialized stuff, but unlike in the US, where you have, as far as I know, various collecting societies for either performance or mechanical royalties, we have in Germany with the GEMA only one CMO that combines both types of royalties and has a quasi-monopoly. And additionally, neighboring rights are collected by the GVL. So it's a pretty easy system here in Germany. But let's dive in the business side and in numbers. In this figure, you can see the development and the forecast of the turnover of the live and recorded industry in million euros from 2016 to 2025. Pre-pandemic, so that means 2019, we saw a total turnover of around 3.9 billion euros, with 1.8 billion euros coming from the recorded sector, which is here the orange bar, and around 2 billion euros coming from the live sector, which is the yellow bar. This is data from September 2021, and you might know that we are still in the middle of a pandemic, and we have a war in Ukraine with high inflation rates affecting all kinds of businesses. So it was forecasted that we will be back on track this year, more or less on pre-pandemic level, but I rather doubt it, and I think we will we still have a decrease in numbers compared to 2019. So this might take a year or two, but however, there are a lot of unexpected events right now in the world. All right, let's turn to the first main subsector, which would be live music. I will rush a little bit through this subsector because we only have sparse data available. And as mentioned before, the live music sector has an annual turnover of 2 billion euros. 1.6 billion euros come from ticket sales, and this is in this figure the orange bars, and 400 million euros are revenues from sponsoring deals. Again, this is data from September 2021. We are currently clearing the backlog of concerts, but we are currently seeing rather slow ticket sales for the fall tours and winter tours. probably Max will elaborate on this a little bit more. So again, the forecast will not be right on target, and we expect to have a slowing recovery after the pandemic, and probably, or maybe we will back on pre-pandemic levels in 2023. Maybe it will take 2024. Just to give you an overview of where the live action goes, next to the big festivals in the summertime, like Wacken, Rock am Ring, or Hurricane, the AAA touring cities are Berlin, Hamburg, Cologne, and Munich. But as I said, we are rather decentralized here in Germany. And we have plenty of other great live music scenes and venues in tier 1 and 3 cities like Stuttgart, Leipzig, or the twin cities in Mainz and Wiesbaden, which are located close to Frankfurt. I'd like to focus now on the recorded music sector in Germany, and this is the subsector where the most detailed data is available. Just to help you put this all into context, let's start with this figure on the US recorded music industry revenues 2020. I think these are numbers you're all familiar with. And you see that the US market is dominated by digital sales, whereas physical sales make only 9% of all revenues. However, in Germany, it's slightly different. We are currently seeing like around 80% sales from streaming and still around 20% from physical sales. But we're in the middle of a digital transformation in this subsector. This figure shows that in, for example, 2018, still we're talking about 2018, physical sales still made around 40% of all revenues. And keeping in mind that the share of physical sales was around 20% in 2020, it is expected that turnover from physical products will see a decrease in the upcoming years down to 14.5% in the next year. So at the same time, revenues from streaming will increase up to 84% with an overall increasing turnover. So you see, we are still loving CDs. I think CDs still make around 10% of all sales, but it's not as bad as in the last decade where physical sales were still at 30%. So this matches more or less the development in the US. And by the way, 60% of all users are listening via Spotify, and only with the next one, next player is Amazon Music with only 30%. Now, where do the songs Germans listen to come from? And to have an approach, we can use the data of the German top 100 singles and long play charts in 2020. And in the singles top 100, around 38% were international productions compared to 62% productions coming from Germany. In the LP top 100, national productions have a slightly higher share of around 68% compared to 31% international productions. And to conclude the recorded sector, I would like to talk about the genres favored by Germans. In this figure, you can see a comparison of the shares of the genres pop, rock, classical, Schlager or Deutschpop, which Jake mentioned earlier, dance, hip hop, jazz, and kids music in 2011 and 2020. And the dominant genres are, of course, pop, rock, and now hip hop. And quite interesting to see is the rise of hip hop from only 2% in 2011 to 18.6% in the last decade. So 80.6% in 2020. So it has risen from 2% to 18.6%. And this is quite incredible. And as well, dance music has seen some increasing shares in the overall music listened to. So finally, I would like to conclude my presentation with a very short look at the music publishing sector. And like in the live music sector, there's not much data available. Publishing is a smaller sector regarding turnover, with only 583 million euros in 2019, compared to the 1.8 billion in the recorded sector and the 2 billion in the live music sector. Main income sources are royalties from collecting societies with a share of around 56%, sheet music with 16%, and sync with a share of 10%. So just to wrap it up at the end of my presentation, some key takeaways. So we expect to be back on pre-pandemic level in 2023, but if this will be true remains to be seen. The recorded sector is in the middle of a digital transformation with increasing digital sales, but right now physical sales still are at 18%. And when talking about where people stream their music, keep in mind that Spotify is the main player. Thank you very much for the attention, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thanks so much, Fabian. That's really great. There's so many things you brought up, but one of the things that really stands out from a British perspective, and also would make sense to a French person, is how federal Germany is. And from a US or Canadian perspective, that seems logical, that it's a multi-city market, but that's unusual in Europe. I think Poland is the other one that's really federal, which is next door to you guys. And you really brought out there the sense of all those cities. How's Berlin been in the last 20 years or so? There's a lot of tech people and hipsters have moved there. Is it a vibrant spot?
Yes, I still think that Berlin is the main capital of culture here in Germany. A lot of bands are moving to Berlin or starting their music from Berlin. The main recorded music players like Sony or Universal are based in Berlin. So it is the capital, of course, but still, I think that the other cities, for example, Hamburg or Cologne and Munich and some other areas, for example, Mannheim, have still great potential and have a great scene and great live venues and great options for upcoming bands. So
you had
because
the Ruhr area on your map. What are the cities in the Ruhr area?
So you have, for example, this is a metropolitan area combined of, I don't know how many cities, but you have, for example, Cologne would be part, but also Düsseldorf, Essen, Bochum, Dortmund. So all cities above 200, 300,000, 400,000 inhabitants. And yeah.
Yeah, and also because like if you consider touring in Germany, because Berlin is so saturated with music, and also, yeah, of course, Hamburg, Frankfurt, Munich, they are as well. So of course, this is something that you want to carve in your bed, that you've been there and that you've performed. But actually, if you want to make money, there's also a lot of small student towns and, you know, the smaller cities. That's actually something to, you know, definitely put on your touring if you're not one of the big ones yet, which always takes a while. So that's something that I just wanted to mention.
It's a great insight, isn't it? That Berlin has some of the established labels as the capital, and there's a lot of space there, a lot of gentrification going on, so it's easy for bands to move there. But a town like Hamburg or Munich, there's a huge amount of wealth and such a great live scene. Maybe, Evelyn, you can describe a bit about Hamburg.
Well, me not being Hamburg music, but well, Hamburg is the second largest city in Germany. Hi, I'm Evelyn, by the way. I'm from the Reeperbahn Festival, and I'm not that funny, by the way. So it's up north. It's a coastal town, and it's been the kind of the business like from the old days, right? You know, when the ships came in and stuff. It was kind of the wealthy city of Germany, and so we have, you know, Warner Music is based here, and with the Reeperbahn, which is actually a street name, There is a big entertainment industry still there. We have so many live clubs. That's actually how the idea of Reeperbahn Festival came into place, when our founder went to South by Southwest and saw that, and he was like, oh, we can do that in Hamburg. We have within walking distance, we have like what, 50 live venues that we can use for showing bands, for presenting bands. And so there is, when people think of Hamburg and they think of Reeperbahn Festival in Germany, they just think of amusement and music and entertainment and hookers. So this is, which is legal here. So this is kind of the perspective on Hamburg when it comes to, entertainment, but still within what you mentioned, within a wealthy environment.
And the musicals go there as well, don't they? There's a lot of
investment. All of them. And then we have the beautiful new building, the Elbphilharmonie, which cost about 3 times as much as it was scheduled, and only took 10 years longer, or something like that. Or felt like it, at least. But it is a beautiful venue with state-of-the-art sound system, and the acoustics are just
insane, isn't
wonderful.
It? Yeah,
huh?
It's crazy. Yeah. They basically built in the Docklands area. They built a classical concert hall, state-of-the-art, and then floated it on rubber on the top of a skyscraper. So it's like probably the best concert hall in the world. Then, as you touched on with the musical, so you kind of got Broadway from New York, the European equivalents, either London or Hamburg. There's nowhere else.
So we're currently having a new production. So we're bringing Hamilton to Hamburg, and this will be quite exciting to have this musical about the founding of the United States of America, and this story, like in German, here in Germany, and we're pretty excited.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and also, we are using, by the way, if it doesn't come up later, we are one of the venues where we are presenting acts is at the Elbphilharmonie. So if anybody's coming to Germany, and you can make, for those, because it's seated, you need to make a reservation in advance, unlike all the other venues. But you get, within our lineup, you get to visit that beautiful venue if you want to.
I have one question in the Q&A, and they're asking where country music comes in. Sorry, I'm Sharon. I'm watching.
Max, do you want to jump in on country music?
Country music in Germany has been a topic throughout the last years. And the honest answer is there is no real market for country music in Germany, which is, I mean, it's just honest to say, because of course, country music is very popular and in this way, a pop music genre in the US. But in Germany, there's no specific market for it, I'd say. I mean, of course, there's country music fans, but you can't compare the fans in Germany for country music with the whole background it has in the US. So
I'm going to throw
no market for it.
in. The Country Music Association, based out of Nashville, have invested a huge amount of money in coming to the UK, and they've built up really good C2C, country to country festival every year that's got a great attendance. There's a latent demand in country music across Europe that came about in the 60s and 70s, sort of Kenny Rogers, Dolly Parton period. And one of the things about the German market, which with Fabian's data on the lives, on the physical stuff, they buy CDs. So at the point where everyone was like measuring the strength of a market by what's the penetration of digital, it's above 80% now in Germany, it's there. But they'll probably, in the German market compared, say, to the UK market, they will retain a higher percentage of merchandise sales, T-shirts, CDs and stuff like that, because something that really is hard to convey other than through the experience of these guys is that German fans are very, very loyal relative. I'll keep hitting back to my UK experience, but if you can get a German fan, they will come back and see you. You're more likely to sell tickets 2 years, 4 years down the line and product. And so the country thing, I think, applies across all genres. It's such a big market that there is an audience there for it. and probably it's something that I'll speak to Sharon about. We'll reach out to the Country Music Association and maybe we can ask them for their perspective on that niche.
There were more pre-COVID. There were more things happening within the live industry. Like we had a country showcase at Reeperbahn Festival and stuff. So there was a development. It kind of didn't stop or disappear, but it's not as big. What I find is working with the relations in the US is that the folk market, because that's always fairly close, and so the folk market, because we don't call it folk here. For us, it would be more like singer-songwriters, or we don't really the genre folk is not really used as much here, I find, but I found out that we are actually talking about the same person. That I would say it's a singer-songwriter, and somebody from the US would say it's folk. So in relation to that country bit, maybe that's also something important or interesting to know, that we don't call it folk.
There's a question in the chat about registering publishing. Certainly my experience of on the neighbouring rights side, GVL, which is kind of equivalent but not digital to Sound Exchange, or Gamer, which would be the ASCAP, BMI, SOCAN equivalent. The Germans have a lot of forms, but they're the easiest forms to understand. So you look at German registration stuff, it's like, oh wow, there's a load of paperwork here. And that probably also applies to touring as well, but it's actually always really logical and easy to fill in. So I've helped a few US publishers register directly with Gamer. I strongly recommend it. It's such a big market. Do any of you guys have experience of syncs and writer camps in Germany, songwriter camps?
You mean like the outcome of the attendance of songwriter camps in Germany, or?
Yeah, any experience that you have? Yeah.
I mean, of course, as the introduction to this panel, I'd say, says that Germany is quite a big market in the world. So songwriting camps are as important for us as in any other big market, like the US or the UK. So the biggest and major publisher always kind of, yeah, they put a lot of pressure in a good way on doing songwriting camps, and there's lots going on around Reeperbahn Festival, of course. I'm now situated in Cologne, working for CO Pop Festival, kind of the Western German edition of Reeperbahn Festival. There's also lots of camps going on around our festival. So songwriting camps for all, yeah, like for the people related to the professional songwriting scene is a pretty important thing to do. And with acts like Mickey Chance, or maybe as well, like lots of German acts as Roosevelt, for example, there's lots of writers, and also in the electronic music scene involved in international hits being made in German songwriting camps. So it's a pretty big thing here in Germany.
Yeah, and just to add one thing, we're currently seeing more international cooperation on this as well with our neighboring countries. For example, here in Hamburg, we're very close with Denmark because it's only 2 hours away. And we are currently, there are currently some songwriting camps for Danish and German writers. So you have to understand, and I think this will be something you will mention as well, Jake, that Germany is in the center of Europe and it's surrounded by a lot of other countries. For example, Poland in the east, you see that great map, by the way. and Denmark in the north, Netherlands, Belgium, Luxembourg, France to the west, which is very close to Cologne. It's an hour drive, 2 hour drive. So we see a lot of this international and European collaboration. So if you're based in Berlin or Cologne or Hamburg, you can use all of these cities as a hub to expand to other European countries, which makes Germany quite an interesting market besides all the other facts.
It's definitely with the US so used to having that East Coast tour or the West Coast tour, and historically we've had a lot of North American artists come through London, use British agents to book European shows. Can I get to Paris? Can I get to Amsterdam? The real market, the equivalent in Europe of the East Coast tour in North America or the West Coast tour, is to do a circuit with Prague in the very middle of it. Obviously you wouldn't go in such a circular route, but it's just a great way of showing how brilliantly located Germany is. And then there's easy access to Italy. You can see Milan at the bottom of that map. It really is an astonishing place. Increasingly in Prague, they've started to supply tech services, coaches, gear hire. But my experience of Dutch and British artists is they love German technicians. So they'll play in a venue, for example, in Hamburg, and then they'll grab whoever their sound person was and take them around the rest of Europe with them. So yeah, it's a wonderful, wonderful market. Can any of you speak to hip hop at all and the explosion you've seen in Germany of hip hop in the last decade?
I mean, rap music certainly is the most important genre in Germany, as I mean, it's pop music, right? So rap music is pop music. And it's yeah, the most important genre in Germany, as maybe in any other country in the world right now. I mean, there's lots of markets. It might not be the most important genre in Asian markets, for example, maybe, but in Germany, certainly it's the same as in the US. So breaking international rap music in Germany might be a little harder than you might think. So we're still pretty focused on German rap music in Germany. It's not that grime rappers from the UK or international rappers from the US, which are not the biggest ones we all know, are likely to break in Germany. But there is a way through independent labels and distributors, but also through major labels such as, for example, Vertigo, Universal, Vertigo Capital, who are always looking out for international artists to be signed directly in Germany, to be braked into the market in Germany, but still it's focused on German rap music.
So German language rap. Evelyn, you've had on, you put on the Anchor Awards, which is a fantastic celebration of new talent. You've had some rappers win that recently, haven't you?
Yeah, we had 2019, it was Aliona from the Ukraine. Brilliant female rapper who won, and she will blow your mind. But yeah, so we do have, of course, international rap and international hip hop, but as Max is saying, it's still mainly focused on the German one, which I personally don't understand, but that's that's the way it is. Yeah, and within the Anchor, so the Anchor Award as Reeperbahn Festival is, we have a jury. Sorry, my dog is. So we have a jury that is looking at the live performances of nominated bands and are picking the winner. And then afterwards, they get a lot of exposure. They get promoted in certain other events that we do and broadcasted. So that's something that we do annually and will happen, yeah, this year. And it's Tony Visconti, who is the who's the, okay, what's the official word? He's the master host who's been with us from year one. So
with
even
support of New York-based Joe Giambrosio, who's in the chat.
yeah.
At the moment.
Exactly. Yeah. And so we had even like Reeperbahn Festival actually happened in 2020 and 21. And then we had, them seeing the performances live in New York. And yeah, it's quite nice and unique. But we are not for us, it's a little bit more casual than I know the Americans love the formal award shows where people have to, dress up, and we like it casual, but and entertaining and less.
Is that a Hamburg thing or a German thing?
I think it's a German European thing. I've never been to it's everybody takes it so seriously in the US. We just don't. It's nice and it's good and it's important and it brings exposure, but yeah.
Evelyn, how many years roughly has Reeperbahn Festival been going for?
So it's the 17th edition. So shall I give a small wrap up about Reeperbahn? It's my time to shine. So we started in, as I mentioned, the idea came from South by Southwest, and funnily enough, we are called the South by Southwest of Europe now. So we started in 2006, and that's a point that I'm going to stretch. And we started as a commercial festival, and then in 2009 we tried it, a small version of adding a conference, and then in 2010 we added the conference more and more, and it grew to it was 2019 we had 5,900 delegates. We have, well, this year we are expecting about 4,000, about 400 bands performing. It's 4 days, always at the end of September.
Do you know what percentage, either on the bands performing or your delegates, is not German?
It used to be 40-60. So it was
European. To me, your event is a European event.
Yeah.
If I
definitely
want to meet Europe, I'd go to Reeperbahn.
Yeah, it really is. And what happened at one point, of course, with the live performances, because we are a newcomer festival, so that's what we try to do. So we don't really show the big headliners unless some big companies want to compare the sizes of their penises and be like, I'm bringing him and I'm bringing her. We're not saying no to that if we don't have to pay the bill. But besides that, it's focused on newcomers, but of course it's a public festival. So our booking team, which Max was part of, and I hate him for leaving, is picking bands that we sell tickets with, full stop. So it's bands that our audience is, the ticket buyers are music nerds. So they're like truffle pigs, and they've heard, and there's a little bit of buzz. So those are the bands that our commercial booking team is booking. They have a budget and they spend it on bands that we sell tickets with. But
and
then
you're not exclusive to Europeans, are you?
Sorry?
You're not exclusive to European artists.
Hell no. We have artists from the US a lot, of course, always, but also Australia, Canada. It's been for those from Canada, we are in love, so we have Asians, not so much from Africa yet, but it's becoming more. So it's very international.
Just a brief thing on the Australians, the APRA, which is the Australian equivalent of ASCAP, BMI, SOCAN, they've been based in London for a long time, and they've just started investing a bit in Berlin, and they have a number of Australian writers and artists that have based themselves in Berlin for writer camps, for networking, etc., etc. So increasingly for the Australians who have all these historical links to the UK and can come in out of the UK much more easily than they can get in and out of Europe, they're targeting Germany over London, and it's kind of split between Hamburg and Berlin.
Yeah, that's it. And the guy running it, he actually flips the barbecue at the Australian showcase at Reeperbahn Festival. But one thing I wanted to mention, just the commercial part. So what happens is, of course, if you put on a newcomer show, so we had, you know, with SEMA a long-standing relationship and stuff. So there's newcomers that want to start in the European / German market. So, but we don't book them commercially. So that's, you know, that's where the showcases come into play. So with those, you know, we have partners like SEMA, for example. This year, with the US being focus country, we have a US showcase as well, where our bookers can take off their money glasses and just look at the bands and be like, okay, they're good, they're relevant, they are in a good timing, and the partners from the territory, like from Korea, we don't know shit about the bands from Korea, but they know which are the ones that that have international relevance. So so there are two angles, because if you look from a management perspective and you just like, I just want to go into Reeperbahn Festival, so but you would, it's very hard to go through our commercial system if you haven't toured Germany before, if you don't have a small fan base there. So there is the other component, which is showcases. That's, now you can ask Max whatever you wanted, because
well, Max, pick up on anything that you're keen to get off your chest. But it's interesting thinking from a North American perspective of Fabian laid out radio, streaming, Spotify is important, it's growing. What are some of the ways that you've seen artists who you've booked be successful in building a German audience?
I mean, Germany is pretty based on a great structure. You can just play hundreds of open air festivals without traveling more than 1 hour, actually. That's pretty amazing. So I just received a list of North Rhine-Westphalia, the part I'm now situated in. I think it was like, let's say, 37 names of relevant open air festivals taking place in summer around me, with a distance of 50 up to maybe 250 kilometers. So you can just say that like for the whole country. So building up an audience in Germany just means playing lots of live shows, which is nothing new. It's not nothing special to Germany, but you can do that without traveling too much. It's the old story a bit, like of doing lots of live shows in Germany without traveling too much. But there actually is the chance to do that in relevant cities, to do that with great teams, with great crews, with great clubs you could play in, pretty solid structure. And as well, you can always, like, I mean, speaking of not only bands trying to break or trying to grow the audience in Germany by playing live, there's, of course, the major labels here in Germany. So there's labels like Epic, Sony, or Vertigo, Universal, and Warner Music doing great jobs here, and trying to break international artists directly, signing them directly. There's Believe as the French company, growing and growing and growing. There's lots of digital distributors doing a great job here promoting international artists in Germany. So I think
pause on that 1 second.
Pretty
Max.
unique.
I really want to underline that super important point you made, that if a North American artist is signed to a major label in the States, there's clout from the US or Canadian office messaging the European office. But Germany is such a strong domestic market that the German local office doesn't need the product coming in from the US unless it's a huge hit already.
Not necessarily.
It's important for artists and managers who are with a major label to deal directly, turn up, show up in Germany and go and meet your publisher, your label, whomever it is. Or if Max is touching on with Believe Digital, the distributor that has a number of offers from label deals to really basic distribution, to turn up and show up. And this point that we have with Evelyn here is, if you want a one-stop shop to meet a bunch of people from across Europe Reeperbahn is special, but these guys are there year round, and let us know if you're going at other times, obviously as touring allows. Fabian, I'll come back to you, Max, as I kind of cut you off. Fabian, we were looking at the other countries, and I really just want to underline that as well, that Germany is the strong, it's the engine room of Europe in terms of the economy, the German consumer. They're very loyal, they turn up, they show up, they love their music. They're just great. And then we've been hearing, Max was underlining about how good the technical crews are, the venues. It's a really efficient place to go to, and then you've got the power of the big guys that if you want to speak to European strength labels, you've got them there, labels and publishers. Poland next door, how's that market?
So I would say from a Berlin perspective, it's quite easy to go to Poland, but we have run a survey at the beginning of this year between our member companies, because we have some internationalization projects here at Hamburg Music, and we were asking them, so what are your focus markets or key markets right now? And what are the markets where you will or want to expand to? And actually, they're more basically all in the West. So Netherlands, the UK, of course, the US market is pretty interesting for a lot of companies, France and the Scandinavian countries. The East is not that much in the focus as of now. So maybe as a touring part that could be of interest, but I think a lot of Max knows that this better than I do, but I think most bands are traveling, if they're traveling to from Berlin to Prague and then down to Vienna, for example, and don't take the detour via Poland.
Crucial thing from my personal experience, 20 years ago, no one in London cared about Germany. 10 years ago, they were like, do you know anyone in Germany? And they stopped looking so much at the US. It's going to happen in the same way that a lot of people in North America are now focused on Mexico and Latin America. Germany is the gateway to Eastern Europe. It's going to be massive growth. And the artists that invest there now, be they from North America, UK, Germany, wherever, are going to get really great audiences. Poland, amazingly, is very similar to Germany in that it's federal. So you have Warsaw, Krakow, Gdansk, Poznan. Poznan's like 2 hours from Berlin. Huge cities, great student population, lots of education, lots of culture around the university towns. So just a little tip there is if you are making the investment in coming into Europe, Europeans will tend to look at the breadbasket markets, Paris, London, Amsterdam, get into Eastern Europe because it's growing. And as Fabian said, Prague is also a great kind of gateway to that. Max,
yeah.
sorry,
with Poland also because there is quite a conservative government in place, so that is the development in Poland kind of slowed down a little bit because of that. So the support system is not as well as it used to be. A great institute had to close down, and so it's more decentralized now, so it's getting a little bit harder because of that, because of it's one of the bullshit governments that you don't want to have. So but in other Eastern European countries, that I'm going to Bucharest next week, for example, they have, or if you go to Latvia, Lithuania, there's also good alternatives, and then it's also within driving range. So it's not only Poland, but Poland is size-wise, and of course, with several big cities, it's definitely an important market.
Max, I kind of cut you off earlier. Where were you headed next, or?
I should remember that now, right?
You gave a great overview of the labels, the quality of the venues, the engineers.
I mean, to add something to what you said, that there is a chance to work with major labels directly in Germany. And it's not necessarily the way to be signed in the UK or in the US and to be kind of brought into the market by the structure. Heim are signed directly in Germany, for example. Another example, which is from the UK, but still pretty big, even in the US, Louis Capaldi is signed directly in Germany. He's been able to break like the world throughout Germany. So yeah, obviously there's a huge structure in Germany here, publishing and label-wise, life-wise, and I'm still waiting for the point, even especially after the Brexit, where the first offices from UK promoters move to Germany and just start their business over here. I don't know, it still feels like kind of a futuristic way to think, but there's so many acts being brought to Europe through the offices of Wassermann and ATC and all the big agencies, live agencies throughout the UK, but it's just not necessary, since maybe even after Brexit, even more, but since a couple of years, you can just like break Europe through Germany. You can start touring here, you can start working here as any act from Australia, Canada, US, whatever. You don't need to work. I mean, you could work with the great people in the UK, being the agents, the live agents, but they could just be situated in Germany. Maybe lots would be easier from now on.
The German agents have stepped up to that, or because it's such a strong, rich market, that they've not been hungry enough to chase taking over from the Brits as the kind of European booking hub?
I'm not the one to tell, honestly, but I think there's lots of great companies and people working in Germany who could take over part of the business the UK agents are used to deliver since ages, it feels like. But yeah, I mean, so this is another part beside the label and the publishing part, the live part. It could start in Germany, and there's lots of examples that have started in Germany throughout the last maybe 20 years, but even after Brexit, it's yeah, it became stronger and stronger.
In my limited personal samples, I found more artist managers in New York who understand about flying into Prague to hire a coach, to go into Germany, to tour around which bits of Luxembourg seems tiny, but there's some great venues there. How far into the Netherlands you go, that you can get from Denmark to Sweden. There's a lot of understanding growing in the States on that the UK is still behind on, because as Max is pointing out, we kind of look to our booking agents who have this sort of well-trodden path that they're stuck on. And I think that in very much the same way that some US acts possibly haven't toured as aggressively as their international fan base would like them to, because they make such good money in the US, the German market in some way has been held back by the booking agents doing such good business in Germany that they haven't maybe marketed themselves internationally and built those links. Evelyn and the Reeperbahn team have done a brilliant job as sort of unofficial ambassadors and export office for Germany in forging those links. Multiple appearances at South by Southwest, Music Biz, and putting on events in New York and Los Angeles. So the reason we keep hitting up with Evelyn is because it really is, it's not just that Reeperbahn is a one-stop shop for Germany and for federal Europe, but they've really got this approach, this understanding of the world coming together and building a wider European music industry. We're up on the hour. I'll throw to you, Evelyn, for a last word, but if anyone's got any questions, we're happy to hang on, even though it's quite late in Germany, and answer any questions from you guys. Evelyn. Any last thoughts or summing up?
I had enough vodka to get going, to keep going, but yeah, I actually put it in the chat here that because the focus country US gave us some opportunities of reaching out to new partners, and one of them is the MMF-US, and we are planning to have a matchmaking at Reeperbahn Festival. So if any of you is planning to come to Hamburg, and Sharon and Jake don't know that you're coming yet, because it's actually the opportunity where you can say, I want to meet whatever, I want to meet labels, German labels, I want to meet European publishers, or you can make it very wide or very narrow, and we go find those people for you, and people that are actually interested in meeting you too. So it's not like a speed meeting, it's actually very focused, and I think that's a great opportunity, and I just wanted you to be aware and make sure that nobody is in Hamburg and hasn't heard of this before. And yeah. And otherwise, it's my favorite comment actually about Reeperbahn Festival was useful fun. So I hope that's going to be it for you guys.
Nita, before you jump in, I've just got one thing to recap on the person who asked the question about hip hop and the person who asked the question about country. If you can email Sharon and she'll forward that on to me, and we'll do some more research and we'll share that with everyone who was listening in. Great questions. Thank you so much to everyone. Thank you, Fabienne. Thank you, Max, Evelyn, Nita.
Same here. Thank you so very much. This is a super informative, very valuable conversation. Thank you, Jake, for doing an amazing job moderating for us again today. And yes, if anyone has any questions, you can email info@mmfus.com. And Sharon has put also her email address. I wanted to make sure that I introduced you to Sharon Tapper, who is our new executive director of MMF-US. So we're really, really lucky to have her on board, and welcome Sharon. And so please feel free to say hi to everyone.
Thank you so much.
And
I'm
so feel free to
glad we were
email
able to put
Sharon.
this together.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's fine. I'm just so excited we were able to put this together. And, we do have this discount code. So if you are going to be there, you can get a discounted code to attend the conference. It's an incredible conference. And they are available to do these matchmaking meetings. So they're really, ready and able to grow your network. And we're truly grateful for this opportunity.
Absolutely. I do have one question for Evelyn. Evelyn, did you describe German music fans as truffle pigs?
No, that's actually our festival kind of audience, because they are music nerds, and there's a German term where you call people truffle pigs that are always digging for the best stuff.
Absolutely. It's fabulous. Yeah. Beautiful. Well, thank you. And thank you so much. And yes, email Sharon at mmfus.com. Please go to Reeperbahn. I think it's absolutely amazing. And I've had so many great contacts and really, really amazing, valuable things that have happened there through the years. So I personally think it's just a great place to be and to connect and be educated and build out that network in a really meaningful way. So thank you to everyone. Until next time, and tune into our MMF-US YouTube channel if you want to watch a replay, of this. Take care, everyone. Have a great rest of your day or evening. Bye.